All right, as you guys well know, all of my content is AI generated, but not just AI generated in the sense that I give it a talking point and I ask it to write a script or write a point of an opinion from a particular individual's perspective. My favorite perspectives are the down and out single mom living in the ghetto, but sometimes that perspective doesn't work. Sometimes I have to make the AI really work to give me answers. And when I need to do that, you can switch over to the open approach. So in order to get it to what I wanted to write, I told it to use open approach as a recent college grad who doesn't understand why they're poor. And this is what it generated in response to that. Recent college grads, beyond just a paycheck, I think a good job would offer fair compensation, benefits, and a positive work life balance so I don't feel drained outside of work. Well, Evil Corp doesn't want to provide that to entry level students. So that means that the recent college grad and what they're looking for in the job market are two completely different things. From the business owner's perspective, they don't understand why you want living wages. They don't understand why you want benefits. They don't understand why you think that you deserve to be able to have a flexible schedule. From their perspective, all they are offering is a paycheck. And by asking the chat GPT what people want and what business owners want, there is no correlation between it. It is exact polar opposites of what people expect and what owners want to give people. So, with that said, let's transition to my three talking points today because I'm not finding any answers. The realistic responses that I'm looking for to answer society's tough questions aren't going to be answered by an artificial intelligence. They're going to be answered by rich people and the government who have created a situation for the 99% where there are very few to no opportunities. The jobs that are out there are very limited when it comes to good jobs. Think of it. I'm the only person at my entire Evil Corp that does my job. I've been in situations throughout my entire life where I'm the only person that does that job. And that means that there's no training. You can't go to college to learn how to do this job. This job is a culmination of all of my past tech jobs. It's networking, it's desktop support, it's server, it's property control, it's management, it's help desk. I mean, you talk about all of the skills that it takes in order to do my job. That's not easy to find, and that's why they couldn't find another um, what is it called, senior supervisor in order to take that spot. They just gave it to someone else who already happened to be there because the pay was too low, the requirements were too high, and they simply weren't willing to pay market value. Right now, no corporation wants to pay market value. They want to undercut all of their employees and just keep them there. As long as they will continue coming back to work, they will keep you there until they're done with you. And that's kind of where I'm at, even with my current job. It's like, well, what are we going to do? To replace them, it would cost twice as much. And that's what they're thinking about because they're always looking about to find cost saving measures regardless. All right, so let's look at our three answers from the open approach model, and this is what I highlighted. So normally it generates my talking point. I don't like the talking points. Sometimes they're too fluffy or too positive. So I just cut out what I want and I mark it in red, and that's what I read, and then I react to it. Even if workers want to pursue better positions or additional qualifications, their current pay often limits their ability to invest in education or move to areas with more job opportunities. I do this video all the time for you guys because not everyone has access to a Promobile and not everyone is going to want to get on the bus. If there's one thing that defines every single low end job in America, is whether or not there are people that are poor enough in that particular area to live close enough to be able to walk there or take a short, very short ride to work. Most of the proletariat is going to live within 5 minutes of their plantation, of to put it that way, because they just don't have the time for long commutes. When I hear people driving 25 miles one way to a crappy job, like the school teacher that I talk to, typically both Saturday and Sunday, she gets so angry about how far she has to drive every day on the freeway because she just doesn't like it. And she actually wanted to come on this channel and talk about everything she hates about being a school teacher for 20 years, including the wretchedly low pay. Even though this is a school teacher that owns two homes, but she's also a boomer, which means that she had a much easier time getting into her first home. I know for a fact that even if I live to be 1,000 years old, I will never own a home because of just terrible credit and just not sufficient money. I'll never have 10% of $1 million to buy a home. And again, that's why these apartment complexes exist. These apartment complexes, these ghetto low end apartment complexes, are here for workers. They're not here for the people that are successful. These places are meant to keep you barely housed in America. There's nothing luxurious about this apartment complex. Everyone that lives here looks dirt poor and run down, and you can tell that they're all blue collar. No one that's here is here because they want to be. And that can be said about the entire proletariat. No one that's part of the proletariat wants to be part of the proletariat. And finding time to access education or to move to a better area, no one stays where they are because they think it's a good idea. We're all trapped. We're all trapped at the bottom in our lower tier jobs. We're trapped in the horrible relationships we have with someone that we may just need to help us pay the rent. And we're trapped with sadistic management at Evil Corp that don't see value in their employees at all. In fact, every time they think about their workers, they think about something else they can do in order to make them feel less valued and more disposable. Yesterday, while I was walking around the park, I mentioned a car battery and a certain appendage of your body that if they could attach those little grips to your nads to motivate you at work, they would do that without hesitation. Talking point number two. This creates a catch-22 situation where they need better experience to land a higher paying job but can't gain that experience without opportunities. America isn't the land of opportunities. I would say that I would go in the opposite direction and say America's the land of the lack of opportunity for anyone that doesn't have the right social connections or family name. If you're part of the proletariat because your parents were part of the proletariat, because sometimes you can actually see in real time parents having children they can't afford and children growing up to work in the same place that their parents did. I saw that at Walmart all the time, or at the Kroger's, where kids are their parents have been working in retail their whole life, sometimes even the same Kroger. And as soon as the kid turns 15, they get their first job and they go in and they work where their parents work. Chances are they're going to make all the same mistakes that their parents made equally as well, because we know that with people who aren't well educated or people who just follow their parents blindly, that they're going to get pregnant when they're very young. They're going to get stuck in crummy jobs. And for Susie Rottencrotch, that means probably spending extended amounts of time as a single mom going to school and working in the bakery at a Kroger's. It's just that's what, in fact, you make fun of that stereotype because single moms are typically the only people who will work hard enough to work in a dirty, disgusting job like a bakery. Because from working inside the Kroger's, every halfway decent human being that they tried to get to work in the deli lasted a few hours. In fact, the other day at work, it was really funny is that they had a person who started out in sales. They showed up for 1 day of training and then they went out for lunch the next day and they never saw them again. That's what happens to people. That's what happens to people who start working at Kroger's. I've seen it my entire retail career. It's where a person shows up for one day and realizes they can't see themselves doing this job. And for people, the number one characteristic that I saw that people had who wouldn't stay and work in retail was they had the ability to drive. They had parents, they had someone to take care of them, because a big factor in whether or not you're going to stay at absolutely the bottom job is having no possibility, no opportunities through family members or friends that you'll have to be there. You will absolutely have to be there. And the response that I was working on from ChatGPT, I worked on one where I had the ChatGPT the write the video from the perspective of a greedy business owner. And what he said about workers is if they don't want to stay here, they can go find another job working somewhere else. That was his opinion. It's like, well, it says right here, if they aren't happy with what they have, they're welcome to find another opportunity, job, or start their own business. Really? You think that someone that's going to work for minimum wage has the ability to start their own business or has the ability to choose as to where they work? Because he also goes on to say, why do workers feel entitled to so many perks these days? And then he lists the perks, and you're just like, those aren't perks. Those are the basic requirements of a job. Do I make enough money to feed myself? Yes or no? No, it's not a job. Do I make enough money to pay the rent? Yes or no? No, it's not a real job. Is it a place that I can feel comfortable going to every single day? No, then it's not a real job. It starts to fall into the category of straight up slavery. And that's what I'm seeing in today's job economy is they don't want people. They want some sort of automaton that doesn't feel anything and that doesn't suffer in place while showing it, because we're all suffering at work. No one shows up at work, puts on their smiley face, and thinks, oh my God, this is just the best thing to ever happen to me. In fact, I say this all the time. Every day is the worst day of my life because I hate going to work. I hate the whole idea of being there. I hate the people. I hate the coworkers. I hate the type of work. Everything about work is a challenge to keep going back. But the only reason why we keep coming back is because your stomach keeps growling at you that you need another can of dog food. Otherwise, you wouldn't go back. You would run away from something that horrible. All right, let's finish up with talking point number three. Making it challenging to look for better paying positions that might be located further away. That's the great thing about Evil Corp is that they drain you of energy and they realize that being able to go somewhere else is going to be not only challenging but sometimes downright impossible. All the people that I used to work with at Kroger's that still work there right now live in the same neighborhood where that Kroger's is. In fact, one of the people that's on the spectrum that works there and has worked there since he was in high school, he moved out of his parents' house and then moved a couple of blocks away and now lives with a roommate at age, I think, 35. He's never had a girlfriend. He doesn't really have any friends. He doesn't have a life. He doesn't have a savings account. And he only works there part time. And not because he wants to work part time, but because Evil Corp finds it funny to make people work part time so they can't qualify for benefits. And at the same Kroger's, the front end manager that still works there told me one day to my face, why would I want someone working here full time that I'd actually have to give benefits to? It doesn't make any sense from their perspective because these entitled employees with all their perks like sick leave or the possibility of advancement that doesn't exist. Sometimes as the evil business owner says right here, the business can only afford to be so generous. At the end of the day, these jobs are just that. They're jobs. And I've put into my videos on many occasions that the death of America is the hourly job. The hourly job is specifically designed to destroy you emotionally, destroy you financially, and give you no opportunity at moving in a positive direction. Hourly work is the tool of the devil that's designed to keep the proletariat stuck in the mud for the rest of their life. Because if you look at how wages move for poor people, they don't ever move more than $1 or $2 above the minimum wage. Your average job right now in Arizona is going to pay you around $15. If you're making 20, consider yourself lucky. Chances are you have no job security whatsoever, and that's intentional. I asked the chat GPT about job security this morning, and they said that jobs are intentionally removing job security in order to make the employees less likely to desire anything more than their hourly pay. You're being forced into normalizing the concept the of just not being able to get by. That's what they've tried to normalize in this country. And every time I make a video, I point this out. They've normalized no benefits, they've normalized low wages, they've normalized a lack of job security, and they've normalized creating an environment that's completely toxic for their bottom level employees. Because remember, corporations only exist to help one class of people, the rich people, shareholders, and the executives. Everyone else that's out there is incredibly disposable. And this is I think the first time in history where they're adamant about letting you know how disposable you are. You have no value to Evil Corp whatsoever, and making you feel disposable, seeing the people around you disappear, even people that have been there a long time. For me, seeing someone that had worked for the company for 20 years wake up that morning, walk into work only to be told that they don't work here anymore was like, it really took me aback. Like, you think that there's going to be people in your company that are going to have some natural job security. They do not anymore. And it's intentional because when you're looking to cut your losses in a company, you're going to look at the people that cost you the most. And guess what? You're not going to replace them with better employees. You're going to replace them with people who are underqualified positions that are half-time positions, and these people are going to have to figure it out because that evil business owner doesn't think it's his responsibility to make certain that you have a certain quality of life. In fact, he goes in the exact opposite direction. He doesn't care if your quality of life is the worst possible that you can imagine. That's not his problem. He'll tell you all day long that he provides jobs. That's it. They're not opportunities to better yourself. They're not opportunities to move up in the world. They're just a job. And I've spent my entire adult life working just a job where I knew that the only way that I was going to do better at life financially and spiritually and not come home and have my soul crushed by Evil Corp every single day is by finding something else. And it's not something else that's better. And this is what you guys always talk about in the comments. Well, you just have to find a better job. For the proletariat, it is a lateral move for their entire lives. The good jobs were never meant for them. The opportunity to get into a good job meant that you had to be able to touch that job. At some point, you have to be close enough to know someone that can connect you to that job. On your own, you will stay where you're at as a life sentence without parole. You're going to stay in the hole, and while you're in the hole, good old Fleece is going to show up every day for a morning, a nooner, and a bedtime fleecing. That's all you get out of this life. And if you think that that's not true, then you're living in a fairy tale.